Sir.
I mean, I don't think we should have Canadian listeners, but we actually do.
Yeah, it's the price to live. It's the price to pay.
The price to pay of yes is we get to have
Oh,
Canadian people. I'm trying to offend Canadians, but they're not easily offended.
no, they think it's funny.
Which people get the most easily offended? Would you say from which country?
Hmm.
I've
Probably the
obviously
French Canadians.
For sure. The United States.
people from the United
Oh,
States.
yeah, probably.
We would
Over.
have to care what people in other countries think or say, which we obviously don't. All right, welcome to the Practical Pistol Show, people. My name is Ben. I'm here to answer your shooting questions. On deck tonight, we have Mr. Birdie. Say hello, Alex.
What's up, guys?
Jesus.
Hello.
You don't seem that excited, Alex.
No, it's okay. It's late.
And Nick Yantola. Say hello, Nick.
Hey guys, how's it going? Everybody having a good night?
Everybody's having a good, probably morning when they're hearing this. Here we go. All right. I've got a couple interesting questions today. I think, so one of the emails I got from a guy, I can give you some, I think there's more to this email and maybe some larger stuff to discuss. And then the next question, it's one that we get that sort of question a lot, so it'll be good to talk about it. Okay. The first more complicated, interesting question. Hello, Ben. I'd like to ask your thoughts on DQs at matches. It is a several faceted question. USPSA is a sport that relies on members to play the game at level 2 or 3 match, where it's common for a member to travel a great distance, pay a lot of money, take time off work, and so on. Would it be, in your mind, inappropriate for a match to require something more than one subjective opinion to DQ someone and send them home without the ability to arbitrate, get a second opinion, watch video, and so forth? I understand matches run on tight schedules. Most ROs do good jobs. Introducing a review would be difficult, but to have one RO who may be a little out of position make a call based on an imaginary and subjective line, which, when stage designs push the shooters to extreme angles without giving the shooter any degree of leniency, seems to be unfair. They may view the 180 as along a certain path or wall, and the shooter may see it as something a little different. Both are safe and probably correct, but therein lies a problem. 180 is a necessary concept, and there are times when a violation is blatant, and those are obvious. We play a sport, and obviously we play a sport where safety is a big deal. There are other times when the shooter is pushed to that line, and given everything it takes to get to a major match, shouldn't something more than one person's opinion be considered into the equation? This question is for all matches, but it seems that this year's Nationals in Utah, there were a number of questionable calls that were made that sent good shooters home, which brings me to the last point of my questions. At what point does a CRO or a match director have an obligation to realize that something is possibly wrong about the way the match is going or being handled if suddenly there are numbers of people being DQ'd on the same stage and that they all have the same complaint? Is there someone who has an obligation to look at how the situation is being handled, or should we just expect an oh well from the CRO? I'm curious about your thoughts. Thanks. Okay, Nick, you were at Nationals this year. Did you think that there was a lot of DQs?
Honestly, I don't really ever look at total DQ stats.
Neither do
like
I.
that.
We had 2 on the Super Squad, which was kind of a lot for the Super Squad.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever seen that. So that was a lot, from our perspective. I would say it was, more than the average, which is 0. I don't think I've ever been present in that kind of environment and seen somebody get DQ'd before, honestly. So
Yeah.
It's a little surprising when it happens.
Yes, it was. It was surprising we had one on one stage, and then like the very next stage we had another guy go home. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's break this email down. First up, given how much, I'm going to go paragraph by paragraph on this thing. Given how much time, whatever money it takes to get to a major match, what do you think? Should it be more than one person's opinion to send somebody home?
And I think that's going to be really difficult to implement because, in the case of a 180, especially.
Well, forget
you can
forget 180,
yeah,
like whatever it is.
well, so at that point, it's probably just going to depend on what you're getting DQ'd for, and whether multiple people are in position to make that call. I mean, I always default to what do they do in other big money sports. It's
Yeah,
like,
you do.
well,
Well, golf, I think, particularly is a favorite of yours.
yeah, but this one in golf, I'm actually not going to go to golf on this one. I'm going to go to say like football or basketball on this one because of the nature of these DQ calls are usually being made during a dynamic situation when somebody's moving quickly. Whatever the violation is could potentially just exist for a fraction of a second. Just you have in other major sports. So what do? They have one ref, one official in those sports can make the call. Oftentimes it's subjective calls. If it's a situation where more than one may be needed, they can team up, they can talk about it. If one makes a call and then others feel strongly that that call's incorrect, they can huddle up, have a conversation, and decide to overturn the one. That happens a lot too. So I don't think that kind of activity should be banned in USPSA.
How would that work now?
Ability
I
to
wonder.
make the call if that's what has to be done.
Nick, how would that work now in USPSA? So if we have one RO say, no, that's a DQ out for this guy for whatever, and then the other RO on the stage or whatever is like, no, that's no DQ. I saw it, and there's disagreement. How would that work? I've never seen that happen, by the way.
I don't know because I've never been a ref in a action sport before. So when three referees get together and what they huddle up and talk about, I don't know. I don't know what that conversation is. I would assume it's structured and there are rules around what it can be.
In USPSA, how would it work?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it should, if they're going to do that, I think it should work this, whatever that, there's a model out there.
No, if that happened today, how would it work?
I don't know. Probably honestly,
I
probably
think
the
the
one
one saying it's a DQ wins, right?
Yeah. He's going to win, I think, for the most part. I mean, that's probably how our rules are laid out today, right? If they go by the letter of the law, I would expect that probably the one that made the call is going to.
Yeah.
Unless there's a rule that says somebody else can come in from the other side and say absolutely not, I think the guy who made the call is going to win right now.
Nick or Alex, what do you think about this? It should like one guy's opinion. Should that be enough to DQ somebody at like a nationals?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, usually the RO who's in charge of the shooter is actually, if he saw it, he calls it. End of the story. It's non-questionable, and the other ROs are gonna follow his lead unless like his call is like he's calling the DQ and he's not sure, and another RO comes in and says like, well, honestly, I didn't see any DQ there. That's pretty much the only time I saw like someone like didn't get DQ. But otherwise, it's like they're gonna ask the ROs who's in charge of the range, and they're gonna ask him like, "Are you sure it's your call?" So they rely on it pretty much.
Well, I think we DQ people for safety violations. I don't think we can change it. Like one dude has to be like if one dude sees a safety violation, they got to be able to DQ the guy, assuming DQ is what the punishment is for that. I don't see that changing. Do you see that changing, Nick?
No, and I don't think it should change. But I'll say what I and I don't know exactly what the rules are on this, but the way my personal opinion of how it should work. If you have, first of all, any RO should not make a subjective call like a 180 unless in his mind he is 110% sure there was a 180 violation or any other questionable judgment call. So as the guy who makes the call, in my opinion, there shouldn't be any doubt in your mind. So if you're 89, 95% sure, you don't make the call. You only make the call if you're 100% sure.
Yeah.
Then, I think at that point, if there is another official on the stage, so how do replays in major sports work? They look at the video, or in this case, I'm not even talking about video in USPSA. That's a different topic I'm sure we'll talk about. But if other ROs saw what happened, and one of them is equally 100% sure that there was not a violation that was called there, then in that case, you got two guys with equally opposed opinions. In my opinion, in that case, you probably shouldn't DQ the guy because you got two guys that are 100% sure of their perception and, conflicting opinions, I think in that case you got to give the benefit of the doubt to the shooter. Now, if none of the ROs can say with 100% certainty that what the first guy called didn't happen, then I think the first guy's call has to stand. So I think you kind of got to vote with people among ROs who are 100% committed in their mind that they're absolutely certain they saw what happened and it was either a violation or not.
All right, so the next paragraph in this question, I understand matches run on tight schedules. Most ROs do good jobs. Introducing review would be difficult, but to have one RO who may be a little out of position make a call based on an imaginary and subjective line when stage designs push the shooters to extreme angles without giving the shooter any degree of leniency seems to be unfair. They may view the 180 as along a certain path or wall, and the shooter may see it as something a little different. Both are safe and probably correct, but therein lies a problem. So he's talking about leniency in here. This is kind of what you're talking about, Nick, with being certain, right? The RO, like the leniency part, the ROs don't need to be lenient so much as they need to be really sure, right? If I can't tell the difference between 180 and 181 just standing and watching some guy, but I can maybe tell the difference between 180 and like 185 or 190. I can tell, that guy broke the angle for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of yeah.
So 180 is a necessary concept, and there are times when a violation is blatant, and those are obvious. And obviously, we play a sport where safety is a big deal. Okay, that's all true. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. Okay, so his main question is: shouldn't something more than one person's opinion be considered into the equation? And I think the way we have it now, like for safety rules, I mean, I don't really view it as you should consider more than one person's opinion. It's more like if one person sees it, they have to have the ability to DQ the guy without anything else. Does everybody agree with that, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If one dude sees it, that has to be enough.
Yeah.
Is that agreeable, Nick?
Yeah, I think so. As long as that guy is, like
100% sure.
100% sure, not 95%, 100% sure.
Yeah, but the rules right now don't really have that in there. That's like an RO training issue. Yeah?
Yeah.
I've never been to RO school. I don't know what they teach. I have no idea.
It depends on the instructor you get. Most of them, or we'll talk about what you're talking about, was like, hey, you got to be sure. I mean, don't be like you think you saw it. Like, no, you got to be sure of. I mean, especially on having like the 180 breaks, like you got to be pretty sure what you're seeing. Don't just DQ a guy about you think, like DQ them when you're sure. Okay, the interesting part of the question, because we were at Nationals and this kind of came into play, at what point does a CRO or match director have an obligation to realize that something is possibly wrong about the way the match is going or being handled if suddenly there are numbers of people being DQ'd on the same stage and they have the same complaint? So there are two stages. They happen to each be a stage where one person from the super squad went home at Nationals. Two stages this year where there was a shitload of DQs. On one stage, people were complaining that it was unfair, and the range officers were calling. I think it was one range officer in particular was calling 180 breaks that weren't. And on the other stage, I think the construction of the stage sort of helped a lot of people break the safety angle because it was a tight wall. Is that how you're remembering this, Nick?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
anytime you're heading down, you're moving hard against your body toward a shot on the 180 or reloading. I mean, it's the kind of situation we're talking about here, right?
Okay, so put yourself in the match director's shoes. So, or I would say in this case, the range master. So the range master gets called every time there's a DQ. And at what point would he start suspecting there's a problem? Like, so anytime the range master, well, maybe not anytime, but oftentimes the range master gets called for a DQ, and the guy's going to be like, no, that's bullshit. I didn't do it. So you're going to expect to hear that a lot if you're the range master. And then if there's a stage that has some part that's constructed, like a lot of people be like, well, it's a DQ trap or something like that. But that's a separate discussion if that's a thing or not. But anyway, the range master goes to the same stage a bunch, and it's like DQ after DQ after DQ on the same stage. at what point would he start thinking that there's something wrong? Do you think? Because you're going to hear the same shit. You know, it's going to be the guys are going to be like, "No, I didn't do it," or whatever, and the range officer is just going to like dig in and be like, "No, that's."
Yeah. Well, I mean, arguing a 180 call. I don't think has anybody ever won that in history of arguing calls.
I actually won it once, but I didn't argue. If that makes sense.
How'd that work? How'd that go?
I was DQ'd at a match for shooting a target from a certain position, and the range master came over, and I didn't think I was breaking the 180, but I didn't say that. I'm like, yes, I shot this target from here, and the range officer looked at that. He said, yep, he shot that target from standing right there. And the range master looked at it. He kind of looked at the angle. He's like, yeah, we're not going to worry about that. Reshoot him.
Okay.
No argument. I've never seen or heard of anything like that.
Okay. So your case was extremely rare in that you had verifiable facts that were not in dispute.
Nobody was disputing it. No.
Okay. That's never going to be the case in any other 180 DQ ever.
I know. I'm a snowflake in that respect for sure.
Yeah. Every other typical 180 DQ is a subjective call. I mean, you RO saw something, you said, you didn't do it, but it's just your word against his, and there's no facts to dispute. I mean, you're going to lose that every time, period. So
I agree.
I mean, to me, it's not a call I would spend a lot of time arguing. So
I didn't spend any time arguing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Your case, that specific case is a little different.
Yeah. So I think, if it's an experienced range master, I would think that they'd start to get a sense after a couple DQs on one stage, and it's like it's not jiving with how the stage looks. So like one of the stages at Nationals where there was a lot of DQs, I was standing there, like one guy in my house got DQ'd there, and then like this was a couple days before we got to it. Then I watched one guy off the Super Squad go home on that stage, and I watched him shoot, and I watched the DQ, and I'm like, that's bullshit. Like if the guy, like if you can imagine it, his muzzle was on the left side of the stage, and the RO on the right called a 180 break, which you could do that. That's fine. But what's interesting is the RO on the left didn't blink. Like there was no reaction. Like normally you'd see him like jump a little bit when they shout stop, but nothing happened. And I was watching the guys. I was standing on the left as well, like a better angle to see the guy's gun. And I mean, it looked totally fine to me. There was no problem, and it was kind of like, isn't that interesting? So I think one of the ROs there was DQing people like crazy. So I had a discussion with the range master about that, and he's like, well, it was the same. It was exactly what you'd expect to hear. It doesn't matter what you saw, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I get all that. I'm just telling you, like, that's nonsense. Like, so you might want to talk to that range officer. And under the circumstances, that was the most that could be done, right? Because you're not bringing that guy back into the match. Like, that RO wants to smoke him, he's smoked.
Once you have a match in progress, there's nothing you can do about it, really. I mean, all you can do is if you think there's some lesson to be learned, you can apply it next time, but you can't. It's not like you can toss that stage and bring back the guys that were DQ'd.
This is the same way they'd handle it if there was a popper calibration. Or, like guys are getting fucked on this popper, but they keep shooting it down, and then somebody by miracle wins the popper calibration on it. It's like the guys who got smoked, they're still smoked. Yeah. Like that doesn't change.
It's still.
Yeah.
You're not getting a.
Yeah. You're not getting a do-over. All right. So either of you guys, Alex especially, because I think you're the smartest guy here.
I don't think so, but yeah.
I think you are. So we see. I think all of us understand the safety situation, the rules situation as they stand now. And also, you get this guy's beef, right? So this is a guy who I think this guy got sent home and didn't deserve it, potentially, right? So we understand his beef. Is there anything that can be done about the rules to make it better, to improve the situation here?
You always can say like better stage design, that they don't put the targets on
the rules. Oh wait,
rules.
Maybe you are talking to stage. So maybe a stage design rule would be you can't have any targets within like some like 5 or 10 degrees of the safety angle.
5 degrees angle. Yeah, maybe. But even then, I mean, if you're running up range, it eventually it will happen. So
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do about it. Uh, for ROs, I mean, you see those guys more and more at matches. The ROs, they stand on like the 181-degree line, right beside the target,
I always
and
find, by the way.
they're looking at you. They're like, you're about to draw and drive the gun to the target, like 3 feet beside the guy, and like most of the times, I know here it happens a lot. They watch you and they'll stop you if you're like, oh well, I saw your rifling, your gun rifling. It's like, yeah, you're standing right there, like on the 181, but I was like 175 or something, and they call you a DQ for that. You broke the 180. Well, no, but that shit happens a lot. It's
So
like,
we can't have a rule in the rule. Well, you could have a rule, but I don't know how you'd enforce it. But we put it in the rule book. Hey, ROs need to not be dumbasses, or not be assholes, or something.
I mean, yeah, well,
You're not
not
going to
push
do
it,
that, right?
but it will always happen anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't see. The thing is, I look at this and I don't see a rule to fix this. I don't.
No, because it's judgment.
Yes, it's like we need to have we need ROs need the power to send people home based on their judgment alone,
Yeah.
right?
So there's guys who chase like they're not hunters, but some guys like to DQ people.
Hey, it actually scares me a little, and maybe not scares the right word, but I really don't like it when I hear a range officer talking about like they've all got stories. You go to any range officer, any RO class in the U.S., and they're going to have stories about this top shooter did this, and I DQ'd this top shooter at this time. They've got all these fucking war stories, and it's kind of like it's a little disheartening to have to like basically either you are one of these guys' war stories or you're going to be one. You know, like that's kind of how they look at it. Some of them.
Yeah.
I don't see a fix for this aside from better training on the ROs. And it's a hard thing to do. Like maybe, I mean, and this is a good segue into another thing that happened at Nationals, which is I assume both of you guys saw, and most of the people listening to this saw a video of a guy getting a FTE penalty on a stage. Yes?
Yeah.
So what you have there is hat cam footage. I mean, this video didn't piss me off at all, to be honest. I just kind of like you kind of shake your head at it, but it didn't make me mad. Like, so a guy shoots the stage, and hat cam clearly shows him engaging a popper. He runs out of ammunition, decides not to shoot it down, unloads, holsters his gun, and he's done with the stage. And after some conversation with the ROs, one of them says, "No, I saw you not engage that." And the other guy's like, "Yep, that's what I saw too." And then he ends up getting a penalty. I think if you're in that situation, if you make a bad call, or I mean, how about you make any call and then you tend to want to dig your heels in? That's not about right. That's human nature. You're going to want to dig your heels in. It makes me think maybe this is maybe another reason we should have video review. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, in situations like this, I wouldn't be opposed to video review. I want the standard to be just like it is in other sports. If you're going to review video or review it in any way, it has to be indisputable proof that the original call was wrong. And I think
that's a high bar for a 180.
Yeah, for 180, it's a super high bar. For this, this FTE,
not a high bar for that.
Not going to be a high bar there. I think you can look at that video and say, clearly engage that popper based on the video. So you can say with 100% certainty the call was wrong, then you should be able to use that to overturn it. That's going to open a whole other, then people argue.
You're not going to get a video that shows with 100% certainty you didn't break the 180.
Right. Yeah, it's not going to be very.
Or I should say that's very unlikely. I can't see that happening.
I mean, even people. You just see this, this stupid crap about people, armchair quarterbacking 180 violations off video on the internet all the time. And as much as everybody thinks they see something with 100% certainty in that video, you don't know exactly where the 180. You're looking at a 2D image. You don't know where the 180 is. You don't know exactly where the camera is. You can't really determine 180s from video.
Well,
unless you know exactly where the camera is and it's exactly on the 180 line, you're never going to be assured of that. So
well,
for
that and
180,
the RO
yeah.
calling it has to, like, I love it when you guys watch are online and they'll start commenting like, oh, this guy broke the 180, broke the 180, broke the 180. And it's kind of like, well, if you're an RO on site, you'd have to call it in the moment, instantaneously with certainty. If if
Yeah.
you're not being a dick, you don't get to sit there and like pause the video and back it up and be like, I don't know. Oh, there he is. That's 180 break for sure. Like that's not the way that's not the way it works on the ground.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be useful for overturning 180s, but I think it would be useful for stuff like this, FTE issue.
So basically, the 180 issue, like I understand this guy's beef, but none of us are smart enough to think of a solution aside from ROs just not being dickheads.
Well, I mean, if he can't prove it, like he says he shot the popper, he didn't shoot the popper.
Well, yes,
It's
but as
like,
far as the 180 issue, we can't
the
fix
180. No,
that. Video review doesn't even really fix that.
no. I mean,
Shit.
no, not the equipment, not with the equipment we have right now. I mean, are you gonna put like cameras like on 180 lines and have like some laser beam simulates the trajectory of the barrel? No.
That's actually a really smart idea that you just had. We could put we have like a little infrared beam, like attach it to the gun. We'd end up DQing.
It's not very practical.
We'd end up DQing a lot more people. I can
I was
guarantee
about to
you
say,
that.
I think most people actually want that. Yeah.
No. I can assure you most people do not want that.
No, it's better judgment for that.
Okay.
I think another situation where the video could be useful depending on the right, if it's from the right angles, if you have some question about whether the round went over the berm or not, and say you can, if you can clearly see an impact on the berm, then you can say that it did not go over the berm with certainty. You can go ahead and overturn that call. Right?
No, I would see another benefit for if you're shooting production and the guy counted like 11 or 12 rounds, and you're like, no, I only put 12, like 10 plus 1, then you could argue with that.
Yep.
But
there's situations where I think it could be useful, but I don't think 180 is going to be one of them.
So this guy's fucked, basically. I mean, this is one of those things where it's like you need to have a really good range master. Because this is the stuff where it's like a really good range master can solve a lot of these problems. Because if you have if you see an RO making a few questionable calls and guys arguing it really hard, and you get the sense based on experience, they're like, these DQs don't seem legit. There's just something wrong here. Then you can talk to that RO. Yeah,
but you're never gonna make a guy reshoot because of a safety violation. So
No.
he's out. But maybe for future shooters.
Yes, you can solve that. And then that RO is not going to do that again. It's like, dude, come on. All right. Next question. I have a question for your podcast. You may have covered it already, but there's so many of them I couldn't find it. I'd like to know what's the single best skill to train for to move from C to B, from B to A or M. Assume good accuracy skills and gun handling. So assume an accurate C shooter wanting to move up to B. What's the best place to focus your training? Stage planning, movement speed, etc. Same thing from B to A or B to M. Where would you concentrate your training? Dry fire, formal training, etc. All right. What do you guys think? How do you go from C to B class? What's the easiest way to do it?
Through a lot of dry fire.
Would it even really be a lot?
No, not really. Just regular
Dick.
dry fire.
A year of dedicated practice.
Yeah. And he says, a single best skill to train.
Yeah, it's not going to be stage planning or movement, that's for sure.
No, because basically the classification works with classifiers, which are speed shoots, which is a draw, reload, and accuracy at speed. So
Typically, that's what it is. Yeah, I agree. It's like from C to B class. If you work on drawing and reloading quickly, that cuts so much time off the classifier stage. Like I don't know how you don't move up. And well, so maybe this is getting off in the weeds. But if you're working on drawing quickly, if you draw quickly and shooting a target quickly, you're working on target acquisition. So that would carry over to like once you've shot a target, you're going to acquire the next target and get the sights on it quickly and shoot that one. So working on your draw speed is going to make you faster all around. And that, I mean, that would help you a lot to move from C to B, I would say. Yeah? Nick, you agree with that, I assume?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is very situationally dependent as well. I mean, based on the shooter and, just what I observe in people. And
there's a lot of ways to get to B class, right?
Yeah, but I would say, if you want to know what to focus on, I would look at two things. What are your classifier scores now? What are they matched up with your current classification, or are they, high or low? And then, what is your match performance against, when you get in a pool of decent shooters, are you shooting to your current classifier ability or higher or lower? And, if you take that second part of the question, you look at your match scores against decent competition. If you're doing like better than your score or better than your classification, so if you're C class and you're smoking most of the B class guys, you probably got the movement part and stage planning down, or at least that's probably not your low hanging fruit. At that point, you probably need to up the gun handling skills and increase the classifier type skills.
You don't even need to be worth a shit at stage planning to be a GM, honestly.
Yeah.
You don't. I mean, you can just find some other motherfucker smarter than you and copy his stage plans.
Right. Well, you theoretically never have to shoot a single match to become any classification. I mean, if you just shoot enough, if you're just good enough at classifiers. So
now you're talking.
I mean, yeah. So it's not, if you're, just look at your own performance metrics, how you do on classifiers, how you do on matches compared to other shooters. And I think that's, for me, the best guide, the easiest thing to key on about where you think you may need to have your improvement show up.
Okay, let's talk B class to M class. You got to pick one skill.
B to M.
Yeah, or B, he said B to A or B to M. It's it's a similar jump.
So I mean, getting into B, if you're an able-bodied, strapping young man, practicing a little bit, that's not too hard. Getting into B, getting out of B, you just have to show a level of consistency. And specifically, you can't start shooting these, 50, 55, 60% classifiers. So you can't really tank a classifier and keep it from hurting your score like you can once you get out of B. So you have to show some level of consistency to get out of B class that you don't have to do to get into B. I think that's the biggest thing.
I vote target focus shooting. That'd be my vote. Looking right, like looking to the target and shooting without pulling your eye back onto the front sight. That can speed up your transition so much. It cuts a lot of time off on the classifiers. And as guys learn that, they tend to get comfortable shooting faster splits on targets too. Basically like learning how to like really rage on targets. That's a good way to move up classification, I think. Because you see a lot of B class guys where they draw and they shoot good, but you're like, man, you're shooting like a little bitch. They're putting them right next to each other in the A zone. Like you can tell they're pulling their eye onto the front sight for every single shot. And it's like, that's great, but ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, that's probably me.
You do. You shoot like a pussy, dude, for real.
Oh yeah, I know. That's why I'm only M class, M classifier.
Well, you're a GM in
in Canada.
Well, it's just by province, right? In Quebec, you're a GM.
Yeah.
You're the GM in Quebec.
Right now, yeah.
What do you mean right now? What are you talking about?
Well, who knows?
No, if somebody steps to you, you got to put him down.
No, don't worry about that.
Okay,
class-
I wouldn't worry.
No, it's just I only shot like 4 classifiers in USPSA, and that
And you're
got
an M
me like
class.
89%. And yeah, it's because I shoot way too like conservative.
Yeah.
There, wherever.
Depending on which board it is, that's pretty strong. I mean, you just pick any random 4 classifiers. Not too many people are going to be able to average 89% on them.
Hell no. This guy's got talent and training.
Yeah, working
Nick
on
and
it.
I just get by on training. It's fucked up. Well, that's great. You guys have anything to add? Because I thought it was another bang up podcast, that's for sure.
No, good. Everything's good.
Everything was good. It's great. All right. Well, listener people, if you guys have a question you'd like the answer to, go to benstoeger.com. Send me your question. We'd love to answer it. I mean, one of you guys would love to answer it. Even if I don't, you guys will have an intelligent answer. Probably. No? Just shake your head yes.
No, we'll try. Yes, of course.
Jesus.